This over here is one of the best mini PCs that you could actually buy. And not just because it's got impressive specs, but when I was looking and doing research about this product, I found something very, very interesting. For example, when I'm looking at the back of the pouch, you'll see something like this over here. This is very, very interesting because what that means is basically now this PC can make any monitor an AI PC. So in this video, we're gonna test that out, but not just that, we're gonna be tearing it apart, looking at all the specs, doing some benchmarks. And if you wanna know some secrets, stick till the end of the video. It's so annoying. I don't want to pay hundreds of dollars to just change my Windows wallpaper just because my Windows isn't licensed. Well, why don't you try Hookeys? That's a ton cheaper. And if you use the code TN20, you get it even cheaper. What do you mean? How do I get it and how is it possible? Well, see this video here, or the one you're watching? Click in the link on the video description, add the Windows 11 CD product to the cart, proceed to checkout, add the code TN20 for the extra discount. So what, the Windows 11 Pro OEM key is just $23.22? Yeah. Choose the preferred payment option and complete the purchase. The key will be available on the purchased orders in a few moments. Copy the key and paste it into your Windows activation settings and you're all done. Oh, that was easy. Is that Ryan Gosling? No. Anyway, by the way, the same discount code also works website-wide, so go check out other products, maybe like Microsoft Office. Looks all matte black, actually really, really nice. Underneath we have a power brick. This supplies 120 watts, interesting. HDMI cable, some screws, VESA mount. So this is how you can mount this PC on the back of any monitor. How are you gonna keep the monitor up if you mount the PC with a VESA mount on the back of the monitor? Do you know what I mean? That's a bit odd, isn't it? Now my aim for this video is to run this PC without plugging it into the wall. Stick around if you wanna see how I plan to do it, but I believe it's possible. I can't find anybody online talking about it, but I think it's possible. First, let's look at the I/O of the PC. So in the front, we've got two USB type A ports, both 10 gigabits per second. This power button there shows that it's probably going to be always on, meaning that if you want to charge something, then leave it on to this port overnight. 10 gigabits, it's very nice. Headphone and mic combo jack, and then a power button. Interestingly, no USB-C in the front. Looking at the side, on the right side, we've got Kensington lock. So, you know, lock it into your PC. SD card slot, which is very, very nice. I like that GEEKOM keeps inputting them into their mini PCs because a lot of the other mini PC manufacturers don't do that. So that's where GEEKOM actually is different and stands apart. Then we've got two USB-C ports in the back, the USB 4. And if you see the left one in here has a little power in there as well. So it can potentially have a power delivery. That's what the specs say. Into it up to 100 watts. We've got 2.5 gigabit LAN, two HDMI ports, DC in, and then two USB type A ports, one of them USB 2.0 or 5 gigabits per second, not exactly sure which one, and then another 10 gigabit speed in there. So let me set this PC up at first, install Windows, get it all ready, and then I'll see you in a minute. Now, I've installed Windows, I've turned the PC on, done a few tests in here, and first of all, LM Studio, I installed that to see what happens here, and then looks like we're getting about 8 tokens per second. If you want to check this with your current or any other hardware that you want to run local LLMs, then, you know, have a look at this score, so that hopefully tests you. When actually testing this, I have noticed something interesting. I'm seeing a lot of thermal throttling. A lot of the P cores have gone thermal throttling and over 100 degrees. Yet this is very, very cold in this room. 23 degrees. So this here maybe is even lower. I'll put this here. Probably should be going lower because that was a little bit higher there. If I'm going to run the Cinebench, we can really see what the CPU is actually going to do. I haven't even mentioned to you what hardware we are actually running here. So for our CPU, we've got Intel Core Ultra 9 285H, which has got 16 cores and 16 threads. Now they're not all P cores. It's 8 P cores and 8 E cores. Then we've got 32 gigabytes of RAM that's running 5600 mega transfers per second. Internal SSD that's 2 terabytes in size. Looks like it's Crucial P3, maybe plus, we'll see. We've got an NPU and then integrated graphics, which would be the 140T from Intel. Let me just run this multi-core test here and then see what happens. Okay, look, we're thermally throttling already and we're only like 37 watts. So what does that show me? That shows me that I don't think this makes a good contact with the CPU, the thermal solution. The air that's coming out from the back is hardly warm. So that just shows me that we're not getting the heat transfer there. Probably thermal paste application is not good because the cores are going high in temperature, but I'm not getting anything out from here. That tells me that we're not gonna get the score that we actually want from here. So time to turn this PC off and go to the next stage of this before we actually gonna show you some of the secrets how you can run this PC. Let's see what is inside and if we can fix it. Now, the good thing about these Windows PCs and these mini PCs, especially GEEKOM, is that you can open them up very, very simply. Now, there is this top panel that can come off as well. This is, I don't know why you would want to do this, but you can screw something out from there as well. But on the bottom, there's very, very simple screws here. They're tapped screws, so they're not actually coming off. They just stay in there. Very easy to remove. Okay, just pull this up carefully. Looking underneath. Okay, we've got a little SATA port in here. So if you want to install a little SATA SSD or something like that underneath here, this also acts as a M.2 SSD heatsink, which is pretty clever. And we can see these RAM sticks, SODIMM, Crucial. This is 5600 mega transfers per second. Interestingly, the Core Ultra series should run a lot faster, but for some reason this is only 5600 mega transfers per second. What SSD is this? Yep, Crucial P3 Plus. It's very good. Gen 4 NVMe. I'm going to take that off here as well. And then underneath, M.2 Wi-Fi and Bluetooth card. So if you want to upgrade your Wi-Fi or Bluetooth later, but this is Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.4, so that is already very beastly, you know, the top of the specs basically there. Now, what I need to do now is actually undo this motherboard so I could get this off. And for that, it looks like I'm gonna have to do these 2 screws in there. Then we can take it off. Okay, there we go. We've got this underneath now, the cooler, and we're going to take a look what's actually happening. So for that, we'll take these screws off. This seems awfully small cooler for this type of CPU, because that CPU can go very, very hot as well. I mean, this CPU can pull a lot more than 65 watts. I don't think the BIOS of this allows it to go any further. We'll have this cooler on this side, and I can see the CPU is underneath there. And obviously we've got our cables for that right in there. So there's 2 heat pipes that go over this. The annoying thing is that you'll see the die underneath there is long rectangular, but our heat pipes go only this side. So if you have performance cores like on this side or that side, the heat transfer isn't as good. And if that is the case, you know, it might not be good news for us. Okay, there we go. I've got it off. I mean, the thermal paste coverage seems all right. But what I can see here is that it touches the sides of the die, but not the middle of the die as much. So what we can do is clean it up and then reapply it. As you can see, there's a few different tiles there. So they're using different nodes actually for different tiles, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna go overkill with this. I'm gonna be using the Cryonaut Extreme. Okay. I've tightened it now as much as possible. You can see that we are squishing out from the outside. So let's see once we put the fan back. So now let's put the PC back together and see if we have improved. Another thing I forgot to mention is that there is 1 spare slot for 2240 M.2 SSD. Interestingly, you can put 2230 in here, but it kind of will hang in the air. The secondary slot here will have to be 2240, which is a bit interesting. Okay, let's take a look what's happening now. And let's take a look if we fixed the thermal issue. No, look, it's still thermal throttling. The Pico 1 and 2, they haven't gone hot, but for some reason they're trying to thermal throttle this. Press go. Let's see what happens here. So it should at first push 64 watts. Let's see. Okay, we pushed 657, something like that. But look at the core temperatures, a lot better. We're not 104 degrees anymore when pushing 55, something like that watts. So in a minute it's gonna end, but let's do a quick analysis. If you look at the thermal throttling here, it's only been 3% of the time. Let's look at the core clock speeds. We're about 2.5 gigahertz. That's the averages there, 2.5 for around 2.5. If you look at the average power draw, we've been pulling about 33 watts, which is very, very low compared to what scores we're getting. The temperatures, the max was 90 degrees in some of the cores somewhere, but the average is a lot lower. So the thermal paste application definitely made a huge difference because we're not thermally throttling anymore. So the way the thermal throttles is, for some reason, the beginning of a workload, it does kind of thermal throttle a little bit, but then it stops. Okay, 865 points. Interestingly, it's 33 watts, the PL1 limit, which is like the long one. Interestingly, it doesn't allow me to install XTU. So I want to go to BIOS and check if there is any performance indicators in the BIOS that I could change to give it a little bit more performance, because now, as you saw with 33 watts, it's completely fine. It doesn't have any thermal issues, so I would actually like to get a little bit more advanced. Probably power management configuration, CPU configuration, active, all performance cores, efficiency cores, yes. Literally absolutely nothing you can do in the BIOS. It's the most bog standard BIOS you've ever seen. Okay, now comes the part where we're gonna take a little bit of a, different route and see some cool features, how you can actually utilize this PC. Now, I'm gonna take the power cord off from the back, as you can see, and I have a power bank like this. This is able to deliver up to 140 watts through USB-C. So I'm just gonna plug this in the back over there. The screen of this just broke, I think. Well, I'm gonna plug it in anyway and then see if we can get video out and everything. So this green light shows that we've got some power going in. I can hear the fans, okay, it's turning on. I don't have the power cord attached, just that I'm not faking. As you can see, this runs all the way from there right now. This is the actual power brick. Windows updates. While it's loading these, let's talk about some of the other interesting features about this. Number one, GEEKOM highly advertises their durability of this PC. I mean, they've got some crazy videos out there on their channel, how they're absolutely chugging this along and it still turns on. And it seems very robustly built chassis, so it is actually very durable. Then secondly, I think GEEKOM underestimates some of the specs of the PC. Now, they're saying that it can support up to 64 gigabytes of RAM. I want to say it does better than that, because now you can get actually 64 gigabytes per DIMM, so 128 gigabytes in total. And also, in terms of the SSDs, they only say that 2 terabyte capacity, but I don't see why you should not be able to put 4 or 8 terabytes in there to 2280 M.2 SSD slot. It seems right now we're still using USB-C for power delivery. Okay, finally we're still completely on battery power. So I'm gonna press go on Cinebench and then see if there's any performance loss just because we're on battery. But doesn't seem like there is. I wish it kept that 55 watts CPU package power a little bit longer, because look, our clock speeds are 3.3 gigahertz rather than around the 2.5 gigahertz range. But now, because we've dropped down to that 33 watts, we're roughly about 2.5 gigahertz range. So that 800 megahertz boost would be massive. But I literally see no difference whatsoever. And right now we're running this complete battery. That gives this PC a whole new way how you can load stuff onto it or not. Because basically now we can ingest footage through the SD card slot on a battery power bank, something like that. This to me is the first desktop PC that can be run on battery power. That's ridiculous. Now, final thoughts, what do I think about this? Few things. Firstly, I think this is a very solid buy of a mini PC. It's a solid chassis, very easily upgradable if you want to ever like get in there. It's very simple, good port selection, and because it can be battery powered, that just changes the whole game of how you can actually utilize this. Now, there are some of the things that I think could have been better. For example, I wish that the thermal paste application was better in the first place, because after I replaced it, I'm seeing a huge improvement in performance. If you want to check out the thermal paste I used, I'm going to leave the link in the description below. It was super easy to do. Secondly, I wish we could actually adjust the power delivery, even the time of the 65 watt boost, what this was. The BIOS, unfortunately, doesn't give us any of these settings, but GEEKOM could update the BIOS and then it would be possible. So, as you can see, we completed it. We're hardly thermal throttling, still 92 degrees. Our battery power, we're still keeping going. But look at the idle package power draw, about 6 watts. The minimum we've pulled is about 3 watts. So that just shows that even on a battery power bank, it's pretty crazy that you can just run this PC. You want to check this PC out? Check it out in the video description below. That was crazy. Thanks guys for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. If you want to reach out, I'll always get back to my messages. God bless and goodbye.